Hi, I'm Sally here to talk about Trailforks, the mapping app for mountain bikers. So Trailforks has a lot of features, but the most important things are it will help you plan your ride, it will track your rides, and it will help you navigate on the trail. Generally speaking, Trailforks does those three things pretty well, and those are the most important things that you need it to do. And it is the go-to app for mountain biking. I don't think there's anything that really comes close in terms of the coverage of trails. So in terms of planning your ride, the features that I find really useful, in addition to the map with the difficulty level of all the trails, is the feature where you can look at the top trails for the trail network that you're on. So if you're going somewhere new and you really want to ride the most fun trails, that's a really good place to start and sort of plan your ride around riding some of those top 10 trails. Another feature that's great is people can add comments and descriptions to individual trails. So if you're choosing between trails, you can get a sense of which ones are going to appeal to you most. People can add routes and post them publicly. So if you're looking for a route in a new area, then that is another good place to start. I found Trailforks is not very good for planning an exact route using the mapping tool, because it's just very finicky. Generally speaking, it's just not worthwhile. I don't bother, but I do use it just to decide what trails I'm going to be riding. In terms of navigation, it's a pretty straightforward app. It works like all of the other mapping apps out there. You can follow where you are. You can download offline maps. You can download routes to follow certain routes, whether you design that route or somebody else has. I found it fairly reliable over the number of years that I've used it. If you are planning on using it to navigate, which is the primary reason that I have it, then you will probably want to pay for the subscription version of this, because it will allow you to download offline maps of as many regions as you want so that you can navigate while you're out there riding. Tracking is the third thing that I use this for. You could just use Strava instead if you're already a Strava user, but one thing that I like is that I can track them on Trailforks, and if I want, I can sync those rides to Strava. So those are the most important things that I use Trailforks for, but there's a few extra side benefits that I find useful. One is that most trail associations here in British Columbia use Trailforks to identify issues that need to be resolved. So if there's a tree down or something, you really should be flagging that on Trailforks, because that is where they're going to look first when they are doing trail maintenance. My trail association also has contests and challenges where you can earn a badge in order to be entered into a prize, and those are all based on Trailforks. You cannot use Strava and then try to enter those contests by transitioning your data over. I don't think that's possible. You just have to use Trailforks. A handy little trick is to use the heat map layer on Trailforks if you're curious about whether there's trails in a particular trail network that are not sanctioned, that are not official. You might be able to see where those are by using that heat map function. So that's another little feature that I have found useful in the past. So should you pay for it? My understanding is that currently the features offered with the free version have become very basic. And I believe you can only download one area for offline use. So if you're planning on traveling to other areas to ride, you're going to need to pay. And you will also get extra features along with that, such as, I believe, the heat map. I think it's marvelous that we now have these mapping tools where we don't have to get out a paper map every time we reach an intersection in a trail network that we're not familiar with. It's a pretty amazing tool, and I consider it sort of just part of the cost of mountain biking as a hobby, and I'm actually very grateful that there is a comprehensive mapping app out there, even if it is a little bit janky. Some of those features haven't quite been worked out, and the data is contributed by communities, but it is such a useful tool. I would absolutely say if you're hoping to explore new trails, if you ride alone, this is a really good tool. But if you usually tag along with others who are navigating, or maybe you only ride in areas where you know all of the trails, then you don't need it. There are now 2 tiers of paid subscriptions. The upper tier bundles together Trailforks and Gaia Premium. So if you are into hiking, backcountry skiing, off-roading, etc., and you use a premium mapping app, then that's the way to save some money, is to get those 2 apps bundled as one. It does offer a bit of a discount. If you are a long-time Trailforks subscriber, you might want to review whether or not you want to be paying for that extra app. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you on the trails.